entertainment, insights. Don't take life too seriously. Welcome to Brainsky Unleashed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Brainsky Unleashed. We are joined today by Robert Indries. He's a guy with an extremely humble beginning who managed to overcome some odds and now operates 8 businesses across 14 time zones. So we're talking to a gentleman that clearly does not have in his mission the ability to sleep. So let's welcome you to the program and let's get talking. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I do believe we sleep too much as a society. So you nailed it.
Do you sleep at all? 14 time zones. I travel a lot. I know what that's like. That's hard.
um, so I have this conversation many times with other people, as the years go by. So the average, um, let's say, time people need to sleep is between 7 to 9 hours. Let's call it an average of 8, right? Okay.
Sure.
That's the average. Okay. So a rule of thumb when we talk math is that averages are made on averages. Okay. So what does the average person eat? Pizza, burgers, French fries. What does the average person do for workouts? Nothing. And then a little bit more of nothing. And then some couch surfing, and so on. And so basically, those average people, right, that are overweight and don't work out enough and so on and so forth, they need to sleep 8 hours a day because guess what? They add so much or they do so much damage to their body during the day by day, that now their body needs more sleep. It's like, please stop poisoning me with this. And so give me some rest. I need to recoup. Now, if you look at people that eat super clean, work out often, and just literally run a very, very clean, healthy life, all of a sudden they have more energy during the day and they can operate on way less sleep, not because they would need more and, they just operate on less. It's because they literally wake up quicker. They sleep faster, like Arnold used to say. It's like, you guys need to learn to sleep faster. That's what he said. So there's some glimmer of truth there because at the end of the day, if I go to bed at midnight, I still wake up early at like 6 or something like that, which means 6 hours later.
That's not
Exactly.
bad.
That's what I'm
6
saying.
hours?
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's not bad at all, right? And so, but all of a sudden, I get approximately 2 hours of extra energy every day. Multiply that by 350 days in a year, right? All of a sudden, I have 700 extra hours to live every single year. Multiply that by 10 years, I have 7,000 extra hours, right? I can do a whole lot with 7,000 hours. I can run 2 additional businesses, right? Alongside anything else a normal person would be doing with 7,000 hours in 10 years.
Okay. So you really do quantify things. That's the way your brain works. And by the way,
Yes.
you have no bags under your eyes. I
No, no, no,
mean,
no.
so what have we learned?
Perfect.
Clearly, you are a guy that eats healthy.
Yeah.
You get good sleep. You exercise. You are probably not sucking down aspartame sodas.
No.
So I give you a lot of credit right there because you don't look like me. Okay. Yeah. Although I've gotten a lot better. I'm not going to lie.
Good.
Trimmed down. I'm just saying. Okay. So,
Congrats.
before we go into the fact that you've literally created an empire, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, at the beginning, I was, feeding chicken, walking cows, working the land, and things of that nature. I was a farm boy. I really enjoyed it. And then I fell in love with technology. I started working on engineering projects, built over 200 projects until now, myself and with my team in one of my companies. And I just always enjoyed interesting things. I can't deal with the banal. I get so angry. It's crazy. I turn off. And it's many other people would see it as rude. Most other people would, because you start talking, about, like, for example, let me give you a real world example. In a conversation, in a group of people, and someone is starting an intense conversation on whether or not they should color their hair I don't know, blue or red. I'm making this up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm there listening to the conversation. I'm like, this is so useless. I can't believe we're doing this. It's hair, it grows back, right? So if you can't make up your mind, just choose one color. In 1 year, you can do the next color, right? Because it will grow out of it. And so it's just, these conversations for me are just killing neurons, right? And I'm like, I can't have it. And so this is something about my background that has always been there. Like I can't stand repetition. People tend to bring things up in discussion multiple times,
Mm.
and it's just not me, right? Like if you say, let's say last week that, oh, I really love this or whatever, assume that I remember what you told me last week. Like you don't need to tell me again the same piece of information. So it just, my brain operates in a way that it just eliminates redundancy. And I'm like, I can't, like, let's just move on, right? Okay, we've had that discussion a week ago or a month ago. Let's evolve, right? Okay, done. Move on, right? So um progress is a very big thing in my life, and it has been ever since I've been very young. I don't like doing the same thing twice. I don't like reading the same thing twice, which many times is also an issue because I already read all of the books I ever need to read to achieve all of the success I ever want to achieve. And so being in my brain makes that now difficult because going to the same piece of information, over 50% of which have retained and know, I get bored very, very quickly. Like I read through it, I read the first few paragraph, I'm like, I already know the story next. Right.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I just
You're
keep
right.
it just happens all the time. And so it's very difficult for me to reread things that I've already read, right? It's just
And I mean, I'm seeing a lot of me and you here. Like, I think we may have something in common. Like, for me, I get so frustrated when I'm forced by people maybe on my team or whatever, where I have to make the same decision
yeah,
again and again and again. Like,
exactly.
haven't I already made that decision?
Yeah,
Can we move on to something else?
yeah.
Like, that's really annoying, and it's it's so frustrating. But you said it, and it really clicked with me. I there you could read you could pick up any list of, like, say, business books, right? How to be successful.
Yeah.
And oh my God, they all say the
Yes.
same things using
Yeah.
different words and sometimes the same words in different orders.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, you almost don't need that anymore. It's like
Yeah.
just you get something else. I totally feel you on that one.
Yeah.
Um, if everyone could just be like us, what would the world be like, right?
Oh, gosh.
All right. So, what would you say was like that? Because in order for you to do what you've done, right? You've got 8 different companies running across 14 time zones. That is not an easy feat. So something had to spark in you. Something had to be like, bang, I've got to do something. What was it that just kind of lit that fire under your butt that made you go, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. So, very good question. So I would weigh in on the side of caution to anyone listening when it comes to your life purpose, right? Because if you believe that you have a life purpose, you're beginning to go crazy. If you're convinced that you have a life purpose, you are already insane. So be careful, right? Like, really, I'm really serious about this. Be very careful because the people that have done most damage to society and in history have been the ones that were sure that they have a calling. I have a calling, right? I need to do this in life. Those were the people that have done the most damage to society. Be very careful. This is dangerous. Okay. This is on the topic of zealots, right? And many times this is religious, right? Religious zealots, but you can be zealotous, right? Or religious about something that you've decided, like this is what I need to do. Let me make that very crystal clear for you. You do not need to do anything. You do not have a purpose in life. Anything you do with your life is your own decision. You can decide today that you want to be an NBA basketball player, right? And then you pursue that for 20 years and you win the championships and you do everything and so on and so forth. And then after that, maybe you want to be a father for the next 20 years. And after 20 years of parenthood, maybe then you want to do something else. Maybe you want to be an astronaut for 20 years, right? It does not matter, right? Whatever you want to do. So in me, something that clicked is that, or multiple things clicked during the course of several years, right? And so one of those is when I was very young, my aunt, who I used to spend a lot of time with, um, she used to say that there's nothing you can't do. And she said that annoyingly, as in she would get annoyed, right? Because I would say I can't do that. Like I was like 7, I don't know, like very small. And she's like, there's nothing you can do. And she literally said that like 1,000 times. I'm not exaggerating.
There's
Whenever
that repetition. There's that repetition.
yeah, yeah. And I would just, it's like there's and I would get annoyed. It's like I would almost want to contradict her. Like, no, there are things I can't do, right? As a little child. And so she just kept saying that. She just kept saying that. And at one point, I really got to believe it. And I literally held a seminar at one point a few years ago, how to get anything you want in life. And I tell people I have a very simple philosophy. Whilst most people say, should I do this or that? I always say, let me do both. Right? Do I want both things? Okay, let me do both things. Do I want to be a good father, right? Or a good spouse and own a very successful business? Yes, I will do both. I will find a way to do both. There's not one or the other. You don't need to have, an amazingly profitable empire and then tarnish your health. What's the point? Because then you'll be 50 and you'll be using all of that money to, stay alive for the next 20 years painfully, right? What's the point? Don't do that to yourself. Stay healthy, run a good business or a career or whatever it is you have, and then spend time with your spouse or your children or your family, whatever you want. Do both. It's not one or the other. It's always both. If you can't make it work for both, that's where coaching comes in. That's where mentorship comes in. That's where delegation comes in, right? And so on and so like so many levers you can pull, right? If I don't know how to make a business in a specific industry work, I talk to people that have already succeeded in that industry and say, what did you do? Right? And then whatever they say, I actually do. Because guess what? Many times I can't tell you the quantity of times people have paid me $2,000 an hour to tell them exactly what they need to do. And then they just did not do what I tell them that they need to. And when they have, guess what? Turn of events, when they have, they actually got the results that they were expecting to get. I'm like, why didn't you do that the first time? I already told you 3 months ago what you need to do. Like, well, yes, but I thought it's different, but I whatever. Just stop paying me if you're not going to use, what I say. So very difficult conversations. Like I press people a lot on my coaching calls. I almost fight with them sometimes, and there have been 50% of the people I work with cry, and not because I insult them in any way, but I'm like, no, that's not true. You are lying to yourself and to everyone around you. That is not true. Like with Robert, yes, it is. It always has been. It always has been. That doesn't mean that it has to be from now on, right? Stop telling yourself that, right? Well, final example, and I'm gonna let you ask a question. Where I went to an event not long ago. I was in a room with a guy. His name was Razvan. There were 4 other people in the room, and there were like 60 people at the event. I could remember almost all of the names at that event. I could just think, I'll remember who they are. If I think a little bit more, I remember their friends and so on. So I go into the room and, I ask everyone what's their name and so on. And then they tell me. And then I say, my name is Robert. And the guy say, oh, I won't remember your name. And I'm not good with names. I'm like, you decide to not be good with names. Like,
Wow.
no, no, I'm not good with names. Okay. And how many times have you said that? Like, just for the sake of exercise. It's like, I don't know, many times. Like,
So that was two right there. That was two right
exactly.
there.
That was twice in
Yeah.
just a few minutes. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've said it dozens of times at this event with
Yeah.
anyone you've met. So imagine telling your brain as like almost an order 10,000 times the same order of I can't remember names. I can't remember names. I don't remember names. Obviously, you're not going to remember names. Just stop doing it. You're lying to yourself. I almost had the fight with the guy. It's like, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. It's just simply not true. You're lying to yourself. And as long as you keep lying to yourself, you'll keep not remembering names. And the one day when you will decide that from today onward, I will remember names, you will. You will see that's how it works. And I'm sorry, that's just the reality, whether you accept it or not.
Yeah. I mean, you're identifying, very basic human principles that most people don't necessarily understand. I would say I know a lot of business coaches, and I think one of the big complaints that most have, which you've identified, is if you're paying me X to give you advice and you don't take it, don't be surprised at the results that you're not getting.
Yeah, of course.
It's very simple.
Of course.
But yet, I think what happens a lot of times is people have these internal thermostats,
Oh,
and
yes,
they
of
keep
course.
their internal thermostats so low that they cannot overcome whatever it is that their thermostat is set at. If their thermostat is set to, I can, I can make $100,000 or I can make $50,000. God, you cannot almost you barely could push them to open up their minds enough to go beyond that number, whatever that number is, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so, real quick though, like, what are the businesses that you operate? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Ju-
Brainsky Unleashed is powered by ProfitMax. Did you know that 93% of businesses overpay on their taxes? Do you pay too much in taxes? A recent study showed that businesses are overpaying between 34 and 71%. ProfitMax is proven, legal tax strategy solutions to reduce your tax burden. I'm not only a client, but I even joined the team to help other business owners just like me pay only their fair share and nothing more. Go to profitmax.co. That's profitmax.co. Profitmax.co to find out more. You can even connect with me there, as you should. And I'll help make sure that your tax bill is legally as low as allowed. ProfitMax. Keep your cash.
just before that, two things I want to say that I found as solutions. So, number one is we stopped doing consulting, I think a couple of years ago or something like that. So people still reach out to us, but on very, very rare occasion. When I really love the guy and love their mission, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll work together one to one. Otherwise, we don't do that. Why? Because we've realized that with the same amount of money that you give me to give you advice, give me that money and I will do the work for you. That's it. So now we
Okay.
have a company. One of those companies, to answer part of your question,
Okay.
is a secretarial company that basically does all of the procedures, writes the contracts, sends the invoices, collects on, accounts receivable, and so on. And so, like anything that no one in the business wants to do that you should be doing, right? The financial forecast, the whatever, talking to this, hiring this person, whatever that needs to be done in the business. Now, instead of me telling you what you already know many times, you should be doing this and, me keeping you accountable, now I actually do it for you. So that's one of the businesses, right? Like that's one solution. And number two, I've learned at one point, and this has been a game changer for me, hopefully for anyone listening, that we significantly overestimate how much we can do in 1 year, typically as human beings, but we underestimate how much we can do in 3 years. So,
Hmm.
or 3 to 5 years. So, because we don't have a sense of 3 to 5 years as time, we have a sense of 1 year because it's very easy for us because it's rhythmical, right? So, one rhythm we understand, but six rhythms is hard, to foresee. So, when when I work with anyone I work with, typically what I say, okay, let's look at the 3 to 5 year vision. Sometimes we go up until 7 years. And so instead of that person that's used to making 100 grand, I I sell them on a vision, or they sell themselves on a vision where now they make 500,000 instead of 100 grand, right? Exponentially more, but not in 1 year, but in 5 years. And so now we have a long enough time frame, no stress, like it's enough. They will be very happy if 5 years from now they will be making 500,000 pocketing, I mean, profit, like that take home money
Mm.
for the owner, right?
Yeah.
So instead of pocketing six figures, you pocket 500,000, right? And so very, very different in terms of lifestyle and wealth and so on and so forth. So, and we set that, and now we have 5 years to get there, and now everyone's happy. Now everyone understands, and now the thermostat has time to adjust because they already made their mind up that in 5 years I'm going to be there. So if next year I'm going to be at 150, that's perfectly reasonable, right? Whereas if we set the 150 as like the top line goal, then it becomes stressful because, oh, will we reach it? Will we not? Now the 150 is just a milestone, just a step to get to the 500, and that changes the game. I kid you not. I
So
don't know why,
you
but it does.
you're so you have an interesting technique because what you're doing is you're taking the focus off of off of a certain point in the runway, right? And you're taking it way, way, way down to the end of the runway.
Yes.
So, I'm a pilot, right? And so for me, if I'm landing an airplane and I'm landing sort of like to beginning of the runway, I don't have a lot of stress, right?
Yeah.
If I'm looking way towards the end of the runway as I'm landing, my stress level goes down significantly because I see all that pavement ahead of me,
Yeah.
and I know that I can navigate
Exactly.
during that long stretch and still get the airplane to stop before I run off into a field.
Exactly.
And I think this is kind of a really nice way of getting people to focus and change their focus because it takes the stress off while gives them something higher to achieve to. So that's actually that's kind of nice. What about some of the other businesses? What else are you what
We
sectors are you into?
Sure. Another, as I sort of mentioned earlier, another one of my businesses is in engineering. So we build things, anything that has to do with um, systems, right? Whether that's hardware, software, we just build anything. Another business is in marketing. We help companies grow. Another business is in HR, recruiting and human people consulting and so on.
Mhm.
Another business is like an Airbnb for luggage. We started, and all of these are in different places, as you said. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
engineering businesses in Europe, UK, and US. The marketing businesses in Florida. The recruitment businesses in Rotherham in the UK. The Airbnb for luggage is or started in Manchester. Now we have over 70 locations in the UK. Uh, this year we went to the US intentionally, and we have over 15 locations now in the US. And unintentionally, we spread to, I believe, four other countries: Spain, Greece, Germany, and one other, maybe Italy. Right. So that's another business. And then another one is a card game for couples that we invented. My wife and I invented that, and it's a real game that you can play with, points and modifier cards and so on and so forth. We've actually won the most innovative game of the year award last year in the UK. So very cool. And so they have nothing to do with one another. All businesses are separate. They're all on different parts of the planet. So we enjoy what we do.
So you're the type of entrepreneur who recognizes the things that a business needs, and each business may be a completely separate sector,
Yeah.
but they all have the same basic needs. And I assume, or is it safe to assume that as you create a new company, you put certain people in charge of certain things to delegate those tasks, making sure that all those things are met.
Yes, correct. We have over 300 SOPs. We're almost franchising how we do it, but it's the franchise model is I have a McDonald's here. I am going to do the exact same thing here. Differently than that, we don't franchise like how you make a burger, but we franchise the way in which you design the systems in the business, right? So whether it's an HR business or a what's it called, a Airbnb for luggage, it's still a business. It still operates on the same principles. It has the same chassis, right? You need contacts, you need conversion rate, you need customer support, right? You need delivery of product, you need follow ups, you need whatever else you need, right? And so
Accounting, processing, order
exact
process, whatever. Yeah,
financial management,
exactly. Yeah.
everything in there. You set everything up, and then guess what? All of a sudden, everything just works better. That's why we started rendering this as a service. This is recent, by the way. It's less than a year old. And it just happened because one of my friends could not find chiefs of operations and operational managers to help him scale his business. He just couldn't. Like, he was trying for over a year. I'm like, you know what? Let me do that for you, because I never had that problem for like over 5 years now. And so we agreed on the structure where he rents my admin team, and now my admin team is managing his two businesses, and he is just over the roof, super happy. He just spends maybe an hour a day, in management, and the rest he focuses on big deals, new clients, other projects, and so on. So um, it just works, and that's what we do basically.
So it sounds like what you did is you perfected a business platform that it doesn't matter what the business is. you're using the same basic functions that you managed to perfect in the process.
So every business is unique in the way that it has a unique mission, vision, and core values. Other than that, everything will be the same, right? So
Interesting.
mission, vision, core values, unique or should be unique to every
Yeah,
business. And
but
we,
functioning systems,
yeah,
that
is the
doesn't
same.
have to be unique.
Exactly. Yes. Because at the end of the day, it's not like people expect different customer service here or there. They expect the same level of customer service. If customer service is not in your core values, if you say, we don't care about our clients, we only care about XYZ, fine. Then we don't focus on that. We focus on something else. Right. And so I do this all the time. I have just three things that are part of my investment philosophy, right? Number one is, does it make the world a better place? If it doesn't, I'm not interested, right? Even if it's a small way in which it makes the world a better place, like providing, jobs to families, and rendering useful service and so on and so forth. So it can be in that way, or it can be in a very grand way. It depends on the business. And then number two, do I like the people that are operating the business, right? So that I associate myself with them and so on and so forth. And number three, is it profitable or can it be profitable in month one or incredibly close to month one, right? So those are my three main criteria or investment criteria when I invest time or capital or, things of that nature. And so based on that, so far so good. I did have a couple of failures. It's because I wasn't a good enough judge of character. So those people were saying all the right things, but
Yeah.
ultimately they didn't do what they said they were going to do. And so then the business failed because I don't have the time in the day, even if I wouldn't sleep at all, to run all of my businesses. That's why I always partner up with people.
All right, so we're running a little bit short on time. So what I want to do is I want to ask you two more questions. One of them is if you were talking to a group of, I don't know what's your normal group size. Let's say it's a few hundred, right? Maybe it's a few thousand. Maybe you're in a stadium, which would be amazing. Um, and they're all business owners. Uh, what would you give them as far as basic fundamental advice to say you double their business in 12 months?
I actually have an entire seminar on how to double your business in 12 months. And I fly out to businesses or to events to just train that. Takes like 3 hours, so I can't really boil it down.
Can't do that in 3 hours. Yeah.
However, it has to do with focusing on um, KPIs that matter. That's it. If you focus on the KPIs that actually matter, your business will double in 12 months because that's how it works. Like for example, you focus on number of contacts that you reach out to, you focus on your conversion rate, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
instead of reaching out to 1,000 people, you reach out to 2,000 people. Instead of having a 0.5% conversion rate, you have a 1% conversion rate, right? Look at your profit margin as a KPI. Look at your average transaction value or client lifetime value. Just set your KPIs that actually matter. Focus on those, and every single month find ways in which you improve that. And that's basically what we do when we go into business. Have a very strategic way of looking at those things, and the business just naturally grows from there. And it does double in 12 months if it's small.
Okay, that I agree with absolutely completely. I mean, it all makes a lot of sense. KPIs are something that so many businesses just, they either don't know what they are or they don't track them, they don't monitor them. I was guilty of that. I mean, for years I was going based on feeling, and then somebody just cracked me over the head. What are you doing? And I became more KPI oriented, and so we know when we're performing poorly. We know what we can do to change
Right.
course if we're performing poorly. Then we can track us performing better. So I mean, I agree with that 100%. So that's solid advice. Now, the most important question. You ready?
Yeah.
Have you bought a private island yet? And if not, why?
um, for a few reasons. Number one, I don't really believe in islands,
Oh, okay.
because if you get them, they might sink under the ocean, right? It's a reality in our global warming and so on. So I'd rather stay on land. Number two, some years my portfolio grows 481%. We've had one of those where that was the record year. So
Is
one
that all
dollar
only 481%? I mean, holy crap.
So $1 invested the year previous into my business made me $4.81. And you don't get that in the S&P. You don't get that anywhere. Nowhere you get that return. So instead of spending $1 million on a doodad, a vanity thing, I prefer to spend $1 million, even if I only get the 2x, right? I still have now $2 million next year, right? So I, I I used to own a luxury car, and the reason why I owned it is because it was such a small percentage of my net worth and my income and so on. I remember my wife freaking out. I was like, "How can we buy this car?" I'm like, "It's just $1,000 a month, and we make so much more than that, right? This is a small percentage of how much we make a month." And she's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Like, let's just get it, right?" Because we went from, you know, 5 figures to 6 figures to millionaires, right? Very quickly. And then now we passed 10 million 1.5 years ago. So we're in a place where if we want a luxury car, we can buy one, but we're not driving one. We have a
But you
very
don't
normal
you
car.
don't you don't need one. As a matter of fact, all it does is take money away from you,
Yes.
and it doesn't actually give you anything. I'm totally down with that. So listen, I really appreciate you joining. You've got a really interesting style because it's so systematized. You can tell that you've got that engineering background in the way in which you think. That's actually really cool. And so, how would anyone who's listening to this learn more about you, get in contact with you? Maybe they want to invest in you. Maybe they want to give you $1 to turn it into $4.81. How could anyone do that?
We are actually raising capital for a venture right now. I don't know when this episode comes out. We might have, closed the
About two
funding
weeks.
round by then. But we if anyone wants to reach me, so I have 4 assistants full time, managing my comms and so on and so forth. However, if they email me at myfullname.com, robertenglish.com, and they mention your show or your name in the header or the body or whatever, I promise to reply personally, even up on a call or things of that nature.
Wow. Well, I thank you for that, and I'm sure if anyone does have the intelligence to actually do that and make change in their life, as they should, they should benefit from that. So again, thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to when this posts because this was really good.
Likewise. Thank you.